घोरं वांस्य नरो नीलोम्बरमहर नाथो हिमांशो पुमान् घोरं वांस्य नरो नीलोम्बरमहर नाथो हिमांशो पुमान् इत्याभाति चराचरात्मकमिदम् यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकम् इत्याभाति चराचरात्मकमिदम् यस्यैव मूर्त्यष्टकम् नान्यत् किञ्चन विद्यते विमृशताम् यस्मात् परस्माद् विभोः नान्यत् किञ्चन विद्यते विमृशताम् यस्मात् परस्माद् विभोः तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये सर्वात्मत्वमिति स्फुटीकृतमिदम् यस्मादमुष्मिन् स्तवे सर्वात्मत्वमिति स्फुटीकृतमिदम् यस्मादमुष्मिन् स्तवे तेनास्य श्रवणात् तदर्थमननात् ध्यानाच्च संकीर्तनात् तेनास्य श्रवणात् तदर्थमननात् ध्यानाच्च संकीर्तनात् सर्वात्मत्वमहाविभूतिसहितं स्यादीश्वरत्वं स्वतः सर्वात्मत्वमहाविभूतिसहितं स्यादीश्वरत्वं स्वतः सिद्ध्येतत् पुनरष्टधा परिणतं च ऐश्वर्यमव्याहतम् सिद्ध्येतत् पुनरष्टधा परिणतं च ऐश्वर्यमव्याहतम् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये हरि ओम।
Mahadev, 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 Mahadev. Is the sound okay? Audio is okay? All right. Om. Om Yo Brahmana Vidadhati Purvam यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। वेदान्तार्थविभासकाय गुरवे शान्ताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादी नगेन्द्र संघभवये योगीन्द्र वन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्त दिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधा बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततम् पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततम् पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। Let us recite the second verse which we are studying presently. Sangha satsu vidhiyatam bhagavato bhaktir dridhayatam shantyadi parichiyatam dridhataram karmashu santyachyatam Sadvidvan pasrupyatam pratidinam tatpaduka sevyatam brahmaikaksharamardhyatam shrutishiro vakyam samakarnyatam Shrutishiro vakyam samakarnyatam. So the objection which was raised, as if the Daiva Balam is not there, if one is not endowed with the Punya, which will give him the necessary strength to walk the spiritual path, then in spite of the person's decision, he won't be able to do it, walk the path. A. B. He has that punya even to make the decision, to be inclined and even walk. Yet the person may be disappointed because whatever he is doing now is not able to bring its consequence. In the sense, it is not able to bring the jnana, which means what? That this will happen with a lot of people. And you must have also noticed that some people do say this, quite, they're vocal about it, that we have been, listening to Upanishad Gita for last 20 years, 25 years, yet we have not reached a conclusive understanding. The conclusion to be reached is to understand, to know that in Gita shows or the Upanishad shows Atma is Brahman. You may be able to draw several other things. How useful Bhagavad Gita is in our daily life. It gives me the inspiration to deal with my husband and to deal with my wife who is so stubborn and kind of thing. And then I'm able to handle the pressures and the work very well. But then this is not all. The whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not to tell you how to deal with your wife and work at your place, in your offices. Those could be the fringe benefits that you can draw. What is the main thing is to understand Atma eva satyam. What is our present thing? I am satyam, maybe, but the world is satyam. The world that I am experiencing, because of which I am tossed into the pan, getting fried in this misery, one after another. The only relief, a little respite that I have is sometimes it is more, sometimes it is less. So that just less misery seems to be my fate. And this is how one has to simply live the life, take it in your own stride. So they make a philosophy also out of it. It is that big monkey jumps. Monkey. There's a big monkey. There is a monkey family which lives over here. And so they jump on the roof, and it is a tin roof. So it makes a lot of sound. Perhaps you won't catch it here. The mic won't. But here it is. So now this person is not able to reach the conclusion that Atma eva Brahma, Atma eva Satyam, and this Jagat, the Dvaitam, the duality, is only an appearance. Okay? Appearance does not mean that it is. It is something that is what do they call? Like the Shashashringa, horn of a rabbit. You have a rabbit. There can be a horn also, because you have seen buffalo, cows, antelopes, rhinoceros. They have a horn. But horn of a rabbit is nowhere found. It is aligam. What is it called? Aligam. Vachidapi upadho satvena apratiyamanattvam. Satvena apratiyam. This is, oh, but then you're calling the world as false, then how are we experiencing it? There is no problem in having an experience of the false. Don't you experience that snake on the rope? And don't you experience the silver in the shell? Shukti, Rupya. Shukti is the shell. Rupya is the silver. Silver in the shell is also experienced. The snake on the rope is also experienced, but just because something is experienced does not give it the status of being. true. And therefore stop claiming it is true because I have experienced. This is just silly. One of these, the modern most popular spiritual leaders, he had this. Oh, if the world is not real, then how do you see this wall? Go through the wall. So what are you talking? Because so the argument is because the wall is experienced and it is experienced as something impenetrable. You can open the door and walk through it, but can you walk through the wall? So what is the experience of the wall? It is solid, and just because you can walk through the door, does that mean that the door is false? Then what is this argument? So according to this fellow, look at his logic. Something is real because you can't walk through it. Then you walk through the door. So does that make the door false because you are able to walk through it? Yeah, Bhagat. What are you talking, sir? And then there are people also. Oh, look at that. That is true. Just because we are experiencing and the experience of the what do they call it? The wall is what? It is impenetrable. And hence it is real. Sir, is that how you decide what is real? Because experience can be erroneous too. Let there be an experience. We have no problem about one experiencing the world. If the world was not to be experienced, we would not be even discussing it. Does anybody ever discuss horn of a rabbit? Nobody discusses the horn of a rabbit. Why? Do you ever hold a discussion whether it is real or not? No. There is no question about it because it is alikam. Alikam means is not there and is also not even experienced. Alikam means it is not there and not even experienced. The question here is, the snake was experienced. The snake is not there because it is a rope. It is not there and yet it is experienced. How come? So when we are talking about the snake on the rope, it is not like the alikam. That is the reason why now we have to talk that something which is not there and yet becomes an object of your experience. So also one is not able to reach the conclusion that Atma is Brahman and duality is false, is an appearance. Why? Daiva Balam is not there. Because there is something which is blocking your intelligence from grasping the fact. Okay? Something is blocking the intelligence, buddhi. What is it that is sitting as an impediment, as an obstacle, as a block? It is the Purva Janma or whatever are the Papa Karmas. Now they come as the obstacles and sit. Not allowing the buddhi. So now there are two things, two problems which were raised and actually answered also by that through that instruction. What was the problem? Without the Daiva Balam, there cannot be pravritti. One cannot walk the spiritual path. And even if one does, it cannot bring the desire. That what is it that you desire through this whole discussion on Vedanta by studying? I want knowledge. I want to know. Your Buddhi should reach a conclusive understanding. Maybe, maybe not, maybe this is also there, that is also there. We don't know. Hey, that is not philosophy, that is called as doubt. That is called as doubt. Ubhayakotikam jnanam is called as a doubt. Maybe a snake, maybe a rope is not philosophy, is not conclusion. It is conclusive, unconcluded. And how is it Ubhayakotikam? Means there are two kotis. Koti means category. Maybe a rope, maybe a snake. So that means what? It can be a rope, it cannot be a rope. It can be a snake, it cannot be a snake. So how many kotis are there? How many categories? Two categories. Maybe, maybe not. The moment you have said that maybe a snake, immediately the other side comes over there. Maybe not a snake. Maybe a rope. When you say, it means may not be a rope. You see? So this kind of a knowledge is not called as knowledge. Knowledge will have certainty. So one does not reach that certainty in spite of it. Now you see the plight of this poor man who says that I'm trying to study, but for me, this does not happen. One has not reached the conclusion. Atma is, this is what is the nature of the self. This is how I am. We are not talking about, after having that knowledge, what is your experience? Have you experienced Brahman? This question is as something like, very, very, very silly. Our reply then over here is, what else are you experiencing if not Brahman? What else? It's like making a person hold a clay pot. You make the person hold a clay pot. So now this fellow, this is carbon and era. Their hair. So, no, it was a conclusion. A conclusion, I know. It is era only. Anyway. So now, what happens? What has happened is, what was it? This fellow is holding a pot. See, then he is able to see the pot. If he wants, he can lick it. If he wants, he can smell it. So he can use all his senses to know the pot. Now he is experiencing the pot. He is very, very. Somebody comes and asks him a question. Have you experienced the clay? This fellow says, no, sir, I have not experienced the clay. So you know the pot, you don't know the clay. I know the pot, I don't know the clay. Now I have no experience. Na? Do you understand what is the problem here? The problem here is How we would, if somebody says that I do not experience the clay, our question, our answer to that one thing is, what else are you experiencing other than clay? It is what you're holding, licking, smelling is clay. Is clay. You are calling it a pot because for you, the, the name, the form, the function of the pot is also there, in which your buddhi seems to be attached. Correct? It seems to be attached. And therefore, you cannot see it is clay, nothing else other than clay. The name, the form, and its functions, all these three things are, are superimposed in the clay. Correct? Because the clay was there even before the pot, the name came, the form was born. Where is the name and the form? In the clay. And after the name and form is dissolved, what is there? Clay. So clay is there in all the three periods of time. But the pot was there in only one period of time, one frame of time. Okay? The pot does not have existence apart from the clay. If somebody says that, okay, the pot is real, then we will say, okay, take the pot, keep the clay. Take the pot home. If you are in love with the pot, take it home. And we want a clay because for us, clay. I cannot experience. What else is there to experience if not Brahman? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. But the problem now is I do not know. So therefore, this whole experience-wadi people, for a little while, let them stay at bay with this claim that we will give you experience of Brahman and all. All right, go sit there. We want knowledge of Brahman. Oh, what happened now? And therefore, the person cannot reach the conclusion. This is how Atma is. That existence in which all the names and forms are imagined. And therefore, this existence does not have any name and form. Does not have any name and form. And that is what is my nature. Infinite, limitless, and therefore superrupa. Because we have also seen whatever is limited is dukkha rupa. That whatever is parichinna, alpa, limited, small, bound by conditions, time, space, object, attributes, it immediately becomes small. Because bound by time, bound by space, bound by attributes, bound by functions, small. Correct? Then what happens? That whatever is parichinnam is dukkham. So immediately comes then what is Sukham? That what is not Parichhinna, that which is not limited. So what is the definition of Sukham now? So therefore don't say Sukham means condition of the mind and all that. A little, let us go a little mature. What is Sukham? That what is aparikshit. But sorry, is it not sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad? So is not happiness also a state of mind? Hey, bhai, that is what we be. Now, so you should have a question. And the question is, if this is what happiness is, that what is Anantam is Sukham. Anantam means endless, without any limit. And we also know that limits are limits are caused by time, space, whatever are the conditions. Where is condition? So condition, anything that is conditioned means limited. Correct. That what is unconditioned is Sukham. Then how do you experience Sukham? By eating a mango? Clear. Now so now we have to do this. We have to provide an explanation for this. And the explanation over here is that when the mind becomes peaceful for a little while, so and then when it becomes peaceful, this consciousness which is reflected in the mind, now if that consciousness that exists in the self is free from the rest of the reflected consciousness is no longer in a polluted condition, a polluted medium, and therefore over there for that time being, one experiences Sukham. Okay, this is how what is called as Vishaya Sukha. This is Vishaya Sukha, the joy born of objects. Whatever is the object now, whether it is a mango or a grape or whatever, it does not matter. Whatever, Ihalaukika, Paralaukika, whatever. Now, Sukha. This is what it is. So that what is Anantam is Sukham, and this Atma is that Brahman, in which the entire world of names and forms is an appearance. So because of this world coming and going, it causes no harm, nor does it add anything to the self. Just as pot coming and pot going does not make any addition to the clay. It was not a pot before, therefore it was 2 kgs of clay. Now the pot is made, and therefore it is what? 3 kgs of pot and clay. Is that object 3 kgs? It has not added anything, any feature to it. The name, the form has not added anything to it. And by going, did it take away at least 500 grams? No, nothing. It still is 2 kgs. No addition, no subtraction. No loss, no gain. And therefore, where is the question of becoming sad? Because sadness means I have lost something, or sadness could be I still want something. Correct? Lost something and I want something. Both of these are sadnesses. No, sir. gone free from all that. So in knowing this is what is the nature of the self, there is this freedom. But one, in spite of that, is not able to reach the conclusion. Okay. Because there is something that is blocking. Not just as in case of that man holding the pot, seeing it, smelling it, touching it, yet he does not know what is clay. Exactly like that. So there is no dearth of experience. So you don't lack experience. Every experience is replete with the consciousness. It's not a pratibodha vinitam matam. Every experience. So there is no dearth. You don't lack experience. So what is it that you are lacking? I do not know. This is what is Atma. This is Brahman. That is what is lacking. And therefore now, what will be the direction of your search, of your endeavor? It will be, oh, in what way will I be able to get an experience? No. How will I have the knowledge? And for knowledge, then you require appropriate means. And then whatever is now preventing or becoming an obstacle simply needs to be removed. This is how this is what is going to be your spiritual practice, for which now Bhagavan Bhashyakar says Bhagavato Bhaktir Dridhadiyata. Because through this bhakti, what will happen? The obstacles will be removed, because it is also, this bhakti is also kind of an action, and it will have its punya. What is the effect of this punya? That it nullifies the blocks, the papa. It neutralizes, nullifies it, which means becomes ineffective. You understand? It becomes ineffective. When it becomes ineffective, it cannot block anymore. So now the buddhi can go straight, pass, reach it, knowledge. And therefore, samadhi is not so that, I can gain some special experience. Even after the knowledge, the practice of samadhi is so that the sukha, dukkha, kartrutva, bhoktrutva, rupa, vikalpas, viparyaya does not rise. That's it. It is not so that you can experience Brahman. Because it is already experienced. What else is there other than that you are experiencing? I am is your experience about which you are so firm. I don't think I am. Is that your conclusion? So who has the conclusion? I. Without this I, will you even have that conclusion that I am not there? So I am is a knowledge which is unshakable. You cannot shake it off. All other things can be shaken off. I am is something that cannot be shaken off. And therefore Ahamasmi is there. Ahamasmi is there, but the thing is that you do not know that Aham is Brahman, and therefore Aham Brahmasmi is not there. So what is given now is to know what is Brahman and is Atma is Brahman. That's all. So now you say this, even that mysticism around, oh, samadhi, we will gain some special experience. So those things also are not what we have seen in Jivan Mukti Viveka. What is the purpose of this samadhi? So the viparyaya, what is the form of viparyaya? Viparyaya means viparita bhavana, contradictory feeling. What is that? Aham karta, aham bhokta. Instead of the fact is that aham akarta, bhokta, brahmamasmi. So what do you say? Aham karta, aham bhokta, aham stri, aham puman. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm old, I'm sick, I'm healthy. This is all what? Viparyaya, a contradictory feeling. Now, what is that samadhi meant for? To remove this. How will that remove? Because as long as the chitta means the mind, functions, means what is the function of the mind? To cognitive functions. Every time there is some sort of a cognition, a thought process which arises, in that the womb of the thought will be this viparyaya seeker. Aham karta, aham bhokta. So now with that thought processes itself, we have seen what is the definition of manonashtu. With the thought processes getting dissolved, what has happened? The viparyaya does not rise. As a result, there is immense peace. Jnana raksha, and there is peace. What are the 5 purposes which are attained through this Jivan Mukti? What did we see in the earlier text? Recall it all there. Because your understanding of the earlier texts will refine your understanding of the new text that you are seeing. Or even your understanding grows, you will be able to see the more implication of what was said before. Okay. Now this is the case. So therefore, bhakti dridhatiyata. Then I told you that even Bhagwan Patanjali was also in a way felt that it is necessary to bring in Ishvara into this scheme where Ishvara already was called as redundant. In the Sankhya system, Ishvara is redundant. In there, not there, how does it matter? Now, your wife has cooked food. And then, your question then to her is, in which school did my neighbor's wife go? In what way is this question of yours or discussion on that going to quell your hunger, satiate your hunger? Isn't the question could have been relevant is what have you cooked? What is there? I want more or is it less? These are the questions which will become useful But a redundant question to quell your anger. How is this Ishvara? This Kapila Muni says redundant question. Whether Ishvara is there, not there, so we have no concern. How is it going to give you mukti? Or according to the Sankhya, how does the mukti take place? By knowing Purusha Prakriti, the vivek of Purusha and Prakriti, what is Atma, what is Anatma, gives you that. Redundant. But though redundant, which was said by the Sankhyas earlier, sage Patanjali brings in Ishvara. And he says, Ishvara Pranidhanatva, because for Samadhi you require Ishvara. What is this Samadhi meant for? So that the Purusha Prakriti Viveka remains unblemished. So what will this Ishvara do? He says, through this Ishvara Pranidhana, the Ishvara removes the obstacles. How do you know that the Ishvara has what is it that you say that Ishvara removes? How does he say that Ishvara removes? So there is a sutra. The Yoga Sutra says, Tata Pratyak Chetanadhigamo Vyantaraya Bhavascha Tataha Pratyak Chetanadhigamaha. One is able to know the inner conscious principle. Okay? Pratyak Chetana is known. What is Pratyak Chetan? Chetana means the conscious being, and Pratyak means the inner. Parang means outside, inside, the inner principle, conscious being is known. And then api antaraya bhavascha. So also it brings about an absence of what? Antaraya. I will tell you. It is Antaraya, it is not Aishwarya Rai's brother. Antaraya in Sanskrit means what? Antaraya means obstacles. Vigna is called as Antaraya. Okay. What happens to these Antarayas? Abhava. Tesham abhava. Abhava bhavati. There is a pot, a clay pot. Now you take a stick and hit on it, it breaks into several fragments. There is a pot now. What is there? What is there? Absence of pot. There is absence of pot. You know, there is an interesting thing. What you said is not wrong, because we will also see it sometimes that absence is not different from its substrate, abhinnam. Because this is just out of this thing, a little out of this present discussion, but I will take you there. So let's come, might as well, let's go there a little bit. Then in detail, when the time and the topic comes at that time. The Purva Paksha means the opponent side raises a question. This fellow says, Sir, your Brahman is Satyam, correct? And how is your Brahman? Non-dual, Advitiyam. Sadeva somya idamagrasi ekameva advitiyam ekam eva advitiyam advaitam. So what is the nature of Parabrahma? Advaitam. Okay, Advitiyam. Now, but according to you, now this is Purva Paksha, remember, this is the opponent. We have to answer him. What does he say? According to you, what has happened now? The avidya, the ignorance is destroyed. So there is absence of ignorance and there is Brahman. Okay. How many things? Brahman and absence of. So even if that ignorance gets destroyed, where your duality is still there, because two things, duality is still there. How can then that Brahman be Advaitam? Because there is absence of this ignorance as well as. Okay. So two things. Absence. So you wanted to show that there is non-duality, but there is, even with by saying that ignorance is destroyed and there is absence of ignorance, by that very fact, what has remained is duality only. Where has duality gone? Where has this duality gone? It is still there. Now there is this question, objection. How do we answer that? How do we answer that? How we say, the Siddhanta Paksha says, there is this ground. Okay, let us say there is this Bhutala ground. Bhutala is there, on which you keep a pot. So now where is the pot? On the floor, on the ground. Bhutale ghatam asti, ghatosti. Bhutale ghatosti. Okay, there is a pot on the floor. Remove the pot from there. What is there now? Absence of pot. But what did you say? Floor. So now you see the absence of the pot and the floor are non-separate. Because they are non-separate, there is no duality. So therefore, the objection which you have raised, that there will be duality, in fact, there is no duality, even if you call it absence. You see, we have no problem there. Duality is gone. Why did we come to this? Antaraya bhavascha. Through this Ishvara's grace, what happens? The antarayas are destroyed, which means there will be absence. When the antarayas, the factors preventing the buddhi from reaching its object, are not there, then naturally the buddhi will reach. That is how, what is the function of the buddhi? What have you done in that? Knowledge takes place. So he brings in Ishvara over there. And we are saying that therefore, through this discussion, the two objections which you raised, that in absence of Daiva Balam, pravritti cannot be there, and even if there is pravritti, the pravritti will not bear its fruit. Okay, nishphala pravritti will be there. Both these things are answered through what? Ishvara's grace. And for which, what is the thing? Bhakti of Ishvara, devotion. Therefore, it should be there. All right. Bhaktir dridha dhiyata. Then comes the next one. Shantyadish parichiyatam. Nice word. Parichaya means introduction, right? इनका परिचय कराइए means what? Introduce the chief guest. So now somebody comes, the what do they call? What do they call that host? Ah, MCs, master of the ceremony. That fellow comes, Mancha Sanchalak, and then he tells that this fellow is the president of Banana Republic, so on and so forth. Okay, and he has graced, and sir, we are truly honored by your coming and all that thing goes. Introduction. Parichiyatam. You get introduced to what? Shanti Adi. Shanti, etc. Now that word get introduced to, we will have to still work on it. Before that, understand what is Shanti and what is meant by etc. Okay. Shanti means over here, Shama, pacification of mind. When the mind becomes restless, starts sinking into despair, at that time, what is required? Shanti. What is required? That the mind needs to be made peaceful. Shanti. Then comes, because when you are somebody insults, then your mind is, what do they say, turmoil. Why are you here to say like that? And I will teach him this. Next time let him come, I will give him back. Several things, vikalpa. Then this mind is restless. So naturally, this person is not at peace with himself, even if he's sitting alone, sulking alone, but sulking. Then the second one is etc. What all things can be fitted into this box called etc. A lot of things can go into that. So here we are going to say at least keep these 5. So first is Shama, then Dhamma. Dhamma means Dhamanam. Okay. Indriya Nigraha. What is Dhamma? Indriya Nigraha. Bahyendriya. Antarindriya Nigraha is called as Shama. Bahirindriya Nigraha, the external organs which are perception of action, it is called as Dhamma. Okay. Dhamma. Swami he once said that, we all, don't tell that you don't practice Dhamma. Everybody practices Dhamma. In the office, every subordinate feels that the boss is the stupidest man in the world. So he wants to get up one day and just punch the face. Today is the day I have found I need to go. And this fellow comes, says, some more work. Oh, my wife had called me early today, and now just today is my wedding anniversary. On that day also, this fellow is doing this. So and he'll do it. So he wants to find. At that time, what do you do? Now, though your fist is rolling, huh? But niche lao. So Indriya Nigraha is there. So there is Indriya Nigraha. Everybody practices it. Especially if you are four friends and family sitting, and for tea, the last biscuit in the plate. That is a big ethical question. Who will eat it? Everybody is looking. And everybody thinks that all others should say, you take it. You take it, okay. Just that. Let last biscuit. And that is Indriya Nigraha. So though you wanted to pick it up and show others, Thenga, but then you Dhamma, Indriya Nigraha is called as Dhamma, Shama, Dhamma. Then there is Uparati. Uparati means, we have seen Laghu Vasudeva Mananam. He has given three meanings to this word Uparati. Those who have studied, please refer to Laghu Vasudeva. Uparati. Then Shama, Dhamma, Uparati. Titiksha. Titiksha means forbearance. Forbearance, to endure. Like some people have to endure. When will this Swamiji will stop talking? एक मिनट बोलते रहते रुकते नहीं. Yeah, because he was forbearance means titiksha, to endure patiently, okay, without complaint, without fuming, fretting, regrets. It's called as titiksha. Because everybody has some hardship to undergo. Nobody is free of that. Samsara means that it will bring some sort of. Even a child which is just born also has to learn breathing. The lungs have to open up, and this fellow otherwise will turn blue. And he also has to endure. Anyone who comes has to endure. Endurance. And if we have not learned endurance, what did we learn? Okay. Then comes the last one, no, the second last, and it is called as Shraddha. Shraddha is Astikya Buddhi, which means Veda Pramanya. And then finally, Samadhan, the ability of the mind to stay focused without getting distracted. What all things? What is that Samadhana means? The ability of the mind to stay focused without getting distracted. So when doing Shravana Manana Nidhyasana, the mind remains focused without getting distracted. So these are the 6 things. Shantyadi Parichiyatam. Get introduced to them. Okay. Now we have to see some few more things which will refine our understanding about Shantyadi Parichiyatam. Let us do that when we meet next. All right. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayana Sutrabhashikito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishwaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Om. Thank you all.